fighters out there. Definitely one that people want to be making sure they're tuning into. So appreciate you coming on. And like you said, let's get some bitches up in this live stream. All right. So we're live everywhere now. We're going to be getting going in about a minute, getting into the show. And we're going to be talking about the 4 boxes of building unbreakable cardio. If you have tuned into the show before, though, you know the drill, you know the deal, you know why we're here. Bitches love cardio. That's it. You know why we're here. The focus of the show is to help athletes reach new levels in their sports, to help athletes understand the little things that they can do in and out of the gym to reach higher and higher levels in their athletic careers. And so today we're going to get a little bit more into the training aspect of it. We're going to talk more about cardio, more about actually how to build cardio specific for fighting. The things that I see a lot of athletes overlooking when they're talking about cardio, and then just what you can do to go about actually fixing that. But before we get into the show, let's get this live stream shared out. If you've got a teammate, a friend, a coach, someone who needs to learn a little bit more about this, make sure to share this out with them right now so that they can be here and we can make sure they're getting this message too. All right, but we're going to get into the show here in about 10 seconds. I appreciate all you who are tuning in already. Make sure to get that shared out. If you are tuning in on the replay, make sure to drop me a comment and let me know that you're here so that I can get in touch with you as well. And just before we actually get into it too, if you are watching back and you've gotten some value from it, make sure that you're going to leave a review for the show, or you are going to send me a message and let me know what it is you got from it. And also comment and let me know what kind of things you're struggling with currently in your athletic career too. The goal of this show, like I said, is to help athletes. And we can do that better if we actually know what it is you're struggling with and what it is you want to touch more on. But let's get into the show. We're talking about the 4 boxes to building unbreakable cardio, and we're going to get going in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are going to be talking about the 4 boxes that you need to be checking to build unbreakable cardio. Now, why did I want to bring this topic to you? The #1 reason that I wanted to bring this topic to you is because when I speak to athletes online, or even athletes that actually start working with me, in the beginning, generally they're very good at working hard. I don't know too many athletes that are competing at high levels or aspiring to compete at high levels that aren't at least already training hard. But the problem, and where a lot of them are falling short, is they're checking one box. They're doing one thing really well, and they're missing all the other steps that it takes in order to actually get the gas tank they want and actually get the results they want in the sport. So what I want to go through today is I want to give you a little something to think about. I want to give you a little something to think about in terms of exactly how you're training, exactly how effective your training actually is, and then what you need to start doing more of in order to see that next level. Because regardless of who you are, regardless of how high you've climbed, you have improvements that you can continue to make. Even if right now cardio isn't an issue for you, I guarantee if you're early in your career, you're going to start reaching the level where you're facing guys whose cardio, or girls whose cardio is even better than yours. And in turn, cardio now becomes an issue that you need to start working on to play catch up. But if you can start working on these things right away, now cardio doesn't become an issue down the road, because even though yours is good right now, you're doing extra work to start working on actually improving it more. And the big thing there that I want to touch on as well before we get into the details is when I say you're doing extra work to improve it more, I don't even necessarily mean you're doing more work. What I really mean is that you're doing the right work and you're spending your time in the right areas to make sure that we're actually having the improvements you want to see, and we're not wasting time doing work that isn't actually giving you the maximum benefit. So let's get into it. When it comes to building unbreakable cardio, we're going to stick to speaking to the combat athletes out there. So I see a couple of fighters that have tuned in already. I appreciate you guys who are all here. We're going to stick to talking to the combat athletes out there. But yeah, there are 4 boxes that we need to be thinking about. The first one is the aerobic system. Now, this one is the one that a lot of people tend to actually be concentrated on more, which is a great start. But the problem is they don't tend to be going about it the right way. Now, the role of the aerobic system in the body, I'm not going to get super scientific about it, but the role of the aerobic system in the body is essentially to be the body's generator. So, as you train, as you compete, as you fight, your aerobic system is what is basically regenerating the energy that you're using as you continue to use it. So, the drawback of the aerobic system is that it can't do this at an extremely high rate, but you can actually train it to be able to do it at a higher rate. So, to put it, well, I'm trying to find the right way to explain it to make it understandable. But basically, what I see a lot of athletes doing is I see a lot of athletes that do a lot of long distance running. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that long distance running is bad or that you shouldn't do it. But what I will tell you is it's not the best use of your time when it comes to actually building conditioning specific for fighting. And the reason is that if you're spending all your time doing these long distance runs, then you're training your body to move slower for a longer duration of time. You're training your aerobic system to slowly regenerate energy for a longer period of time. Now, I get what you might be thinking is great. I want my aerobic system working for the duration of my fight, so I want it to be regenerating energy for a longer period of time. But the issue with this is that when you fight, you're moving explosively, you're moving fast, you're moving in repeated explosive efforts. You're not moving at one slow, steady pace for the duration of the fight. So, in order to have your aerobic system optimally trained to step into the ring or the cage, depending on the length of time you're fighting and depending on exactly what sport you're fighting in, the aerobic system needs to be fit to regenerate energy faster to fuel those faster, more explosive, higher intensity exercises. So if you're doing aerobic work and all you're doing is going for, 5-mile runs, 10-mile runs, whatever it might be, then yes, your aerobic system is improving. And yes, you might be seeing benefit in terms of the effects it's having on your fights right now. But the time you're spending and the results you're getting from that, specific to the fight that you're looking to improve in, is absolutely not optimal. So, what you want to start doing if you're truly going to train the aerobic system in a way that's going to build unbreakable cardio for fighting, what you want to start doing is start shortening that distance and upping that pace. So I know you're trying to keep as high a pace as you can for those, 5-mile runs, 10-mile runs, whatever it is you're doing. But if you're working in bursts of 2 to 5 minutes and keeping a high consistent pace for that, now you're teaching your aerobic system to work at an even higher pace. And then because of the nature of the sport, it's not just one steady pace through the whole time. Your aerobic system is going to be better equipped to actually regenerate energy faster so that when you hit the sport and you're exploding and repeating and exploding and repeating, you're going to be able to actually match that and your aerobic system's not going to get fatigued while you fight. So that's box number one. Box number two, and this is one that I see a lot of athletes overlooking, is the anaerobic systems. Now, I'm going to group them together. There are two of them, but I am going to group them together just for simplicity's sake, just so you can understand kind of what you need to be doing more of to actually hit that anaerobic system effectively and actually have the result you're looking for in a fight. So the first thing that you need to start thinking of if you want to start hitting your anaerobic system and developing the power that you're actually looking for that's going to translate to fighting, the first thing you need to think about with the anaerobic system is maximum intensity efforts with complete breaks. So the anaerobic system, think about your fight or flight response. Your body's ability to just absolutely explode, life or death situation, or in specific to a fight, think max effort combination, throwing 3, 4, 5, 6 shots as hard as you can, trying to finish your opponent, and then stepping back out. What tends to happen is when people aren't training their anaerobic systems effectively, they jump in, throw those 3, 4, 5, 6 shots, and then when they step out, they've drained their anaerobic reserve, and in turn, their aerobic system is taking longer to regenerate the energy they need. And because that's not happening quickly, that's when you start to feel that fatigue set in, that feeling like you're going to throw up, and ultimately gassing out, which is something that I know nobody wants to ever have happen. So if you want to mitigate this, if you want to make sure that you're improving in every area of cardio, every area of conditioning, and building that unbreakable cardio that you need to compete at the highest level, you need anaerobic training in your weekly training regimen. Now, generally, I focus more on this as we draw closer and closer to the fights. So this would be more, 3 to 4 weeks out. That's where a lot of the shift would go to more anaerobic work. It's going to depend a little bit on the athlete, but that's kind of a general idea for me. Now, how I would do this is generally 1 to 2 times a week. Sets, I do them as every minute on the minute sets, or EMOMs, as you might have heard of them if you've been training for a while. But the real key is, again, 5 to 10 seconds of absolute maximum intensity effort, followed by the rest of the minute as a break. So one of my favorite ways to do it is with medicine ball slams. 5 medicine ball slams as hard as you can possibly go, followed by a break until the top of the minute. And then at the 1 minute mark, you go again, the 2 minute mark, you go again, all the way through to, we usually do 10 to 12 rounds. Now, what this is going to teach your body to do is this is going to teach your body to absolutely output as much force as you can, and in turn, be able to train your body to recover that max effort ability as fast as possible. So what I really want you to think about when it comes to, the anaerobic training is making sure that you are hitting these efforts at 100% or as close to 100% as possible. So if you're doing that session, that medicine ball session that I mentioned, and you start noticing after set number 6 or 7, you're really slowing down and the effort's not coming out with as much power, this means you're draining your anaerobic system. And in turn, you're not going to be able to get as much out of it moving forward. So cut it at that 5th or 6th set, wherever it starts to diminish, and call it there for that session. So this part of conditioning is extremely important. Everybody talks about the pace, being able to push the pace for longer. But if your body's not able to explode like that, you're not going to be able to fight at the high pace you need, even if you've been putting in all the miles every week. So the next block that we need to talk about when it comes to unbreakable conditioning, and I know this one is going to hit some people a little bit funny, is strength. If you want the cardio to be able to push a pace on anyone, your body needs to be strong. That's it. Your body needs to be strong. And this doesn't mean getting in and starting a powerlifting program where your goal is just to lift as much weight as possible. You need to build strength in movement patterns that are going to actually translate to improving your ability in the sport. So what do I mean when I say that? Instead of thinking, how much weight can I lift? Start thinking about how I'm lifting the weight. Start thinking about what muscles you're getting engaged, how those patterns are going to translate to better movement while you're actually in the cage or the ring. So as you continue to build strength, what happens? This is your body's foundation. So what happens is as your body gets stronger, as your muscles become more well-balanced, first of all, you're more resilient to injury. So if you're lifting weights, you're less likely to get hurt from the sport itself. Still, injuries still happen, but the stronger you are, the less of those little tweaks and pulls and everything like that tend to happen because your body is stronger and can take more impact without actually succumbing to injury. So that's the first thing. The second thing is every movement you make is going to take less energy. Let me say that again. Every movement you make is going to take less energy. If you are 20% stronger, then that same snapping jab that you're throwing is taking 20% less effort to throw out. So every time you use it, it's taking 20% less effort. And if it's taking 20% less effort every time you use it, even without doing any conditioning work, you're already going to have an improved gas tank from where you are right now. So strength work is absolutely crucial when it comes to improving your gas tank and building the unbreakable cardio you're looking for. Now, we've been through the first 3 boxes: aerobic, anaerobic, and strength. The last one that I want to touch on, and this one is actually going to be probably the most crucial of any of them, is movement efficiency. So what do I mean when I say that? If we can teach your body to move more efficiently, if we can teach your body to move in patterns that use less energy, that don't take away from what you're actually doing in the sport, now again, every time you move, you're using less energy. And if you're using less energy every time you move, that means you can move for longer without gassing out. You can move for longer without losing pace and and actually being able to continue to push pace on other people. So by improving the movement patterns, improving the muscle engagement through the body, you're going to be able to improve your conditioning without actually doing any conditioning work. So the reason that I bring this all to you guys is because the main principles of my company are trying to get athletes the best result possible in the least amount of time. Because I hear so many of you guys out there saying, I'm doing 20 miles a week. I'm running 25 kilometers a week. I'm running 5 kilometers 3 times a week. Like all of these, don't get me wrong, I admire the work ethic, but you guys are doing all of these sessions that are not giving you the best bang for your buck. And then you're talking about how you can't add in an extra strength session because you're doing all this running, but that extra strength session is going to be more beneficial to you than that extra run. Because if your aerobic system is good already, but you're weak as shit, you're still leaving conditioning. You're still leaving your conditioning up to chance. But if your aerobic system is good, your strength is good, your power is good, you're moving well, now you're covering all the bases. And if you're covering all the bases, if every piece of the puzzle is taken care of, you have that unbreakable conditioning that you're looking for, and you're able to push a pace on anybody that steps in the ring in front of you or anybody that steps in the cage in front of you. So that is it. That is all. I hope you got some value from this. I hope you were able to take something away from this. Even more so, as you listen to this, my invitation for you is to ask yourself, which of these boxes are you not checking? Which of these boxes are you not checking? Because I speak to a lot of guys out there, like I mentioned, that, they're doing all their runs. They're running every day. They're running 4 or 5 times a week, whatever it is, but they're never lifting a weight. Now, if you could improve your conditioning more by running less and lifting weights 1 or 2 times a week, and you'd start to see benefits in injury risk reduction. So, not getting hurt as often as you do right now. You start to notice that, your body feels better and your body feels fresher after hard training sessions. You start to notice that your power improves. So instead of having to work on just throwing light volume, you're actually able to start putting your opponents to sleep. How much better is that going to actually serve you when it comes to competing than just continuing to run every single day like you are right now? So my invitation for you is to look at these 4 boxes, think about these 4 boxes, and ask yourself, which one are you not checking? Which one are you not thinking about in your week? Are you regularly strength training 2 to 3 times a week? Are you doing your aerobic work, 2 to 3 times a week? Are you doing anaerobic work at all? A lot of people don't do that with their conditioning because they're too focused on the aerobic. Are you working on your movement efficiency? Are you actually thinking about how you're lifting weights, how you're jumping, how you're sprinting? Or are you just getting into the ring and swinging for the fences until someone pulls you off? Because if you can start checking all 4 of these boxes, start working on improving in every one of these areas, you're going to start noticing that your conditioning improves rapidly. And if your conditioning starts improving rapidly, what starts to happen is you start to win more fights, you start to make it further in your career, and in turn, you actually end up building the career you want instead of falling off before. So now that is it. That is all. I hope you got some value from this. I hope you learned a little something. If you did, I would love to know what it is. Drop me a comment or leave a review for the podcast so that I can actually see what parts of these shows are hitting for you, and I can touch more on those areas that you guys are struggling with. So I appreciate you all for taking the time to tune in. Everyone who tuned in live, thank you. And make sure to do that for me. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of the day. And I'll talk to you all again very soon. All right. I'm going to go through a couple of questions. I'm going to see if I can see the questions on Facebook here. If anybody's got any questions right now, anything that you want to know a little bit more about, anything that you heard on the podcast just now that stuck out to you, I would absolutely love to hear them. And yeah, let's see if we've got any comments on the Facebook feed. JP, no, I don't have autism, but thanks for asking. And I mean, I would like to think that I'm quite good at something specific here, but no, I do not have autism. Best way to start training after injury. I mean, the biggest thing, man, is it's going to depend on the injury, because if you're trying to get back to training and you're not thinking about the injury at all, and you're just trying to get back to 100%, you're likely going to set yourself up for problems in the future. But the best way to start training after injury is start to reinforce what you actually hurt, right? So if you injured your knee, start working on improving the strength of all the muscles around your knee. Extra exercises focused on developing the strength in the hamstring, the calf, the quads. And as those start to all improve, your knee is going to be in a more solid position. And then from there, also think about what actually caused the injury in the first place. Obviously, with fighting, there's going to be some that, we just can't get away from. But if it was like, you moved a certain way and something popped, or like one of those, non-contact injuries, those can usually be avoided. So depending on what actually got injured, what I would really start thinking about is what caused the injury in the first place, and what movements do you need to change, or what movement patterns that you're in right now do you need to change to make sure that injury doesn't come up again, right? So it could be a weakness around that joint. It could be because of the way you move, you're used to putting more pressure in a certain area. Contact injury, lower back. Can you elaborate a little more? Like, you got hit a certain way that caused a pain in your lower back. What was the actual injury? Excuse me. And anyone on Facebook, if you guys have questions as well, make sure to drop them in the comments. I don't know why it doesn't always let me see questions, but I've got the stream open, so I'm hoping I can actually see questions. Contact injury, lower back. If you can elaborate a little more, just tell me what the injury actually was. I could probably give you a little bit better advice. But either way, it is still going to be a lot about making sure that you're actually thinking some sort of grappling injury. So it's just strained, because like if it's just like you're feeling kind of pressure in your lower back or anything like that, the big thing there is just give it a couple of days, right? If you take 2 or 3 days off and it gets better, awesome. If you take 2 or 3 days off and it doesn't get better, I would start with some basic mobility stuff. Just start trying to open up whatever it is that's tight. But if it's like serious, like you can't walk with it because there's so much pain or anything like that, that's when we need to get the medical practitioners in there. It's possible. It's definitely not possible to prevent all injuries in your career. So I'm just going to finish off that question first, and then Abdullah, I'm going to get to yours right after. But as far as it being muscular, I think the biggest thing there, man, would be take a couple of days. Like, if, it might just be a strain. If you're still walking around and stuff, it might just be a little strained or a little pulled. Take a couple of days and see how it feels first. If you're just trying to train through it, you're probably going to set yourself up to make it worse. And that's definitely not what we want to do. And then if you take a couple of days and it starts feeling better, that's exactly what it was. If you take a couple of days off and it starts feeling worse, we got a problem. That makes sense? As far as preventing injuries during your whole combat career, it's definitely not possible to prevent all injuries. Like, I'm never going to come on here and say that it's, that you can just never get injured if you train the right way. But a lot of the time what we see is, somebody injures their shoulder hitting a bag. There's no reason that that should happen. But what happens is your shoulders aren't strong enough to take the impact of how much training you're doing. And in turn, you hit that one shot just not right and it pops your shoulder out a weird way. Right. But if we've built that proper strength around every area in that joint, now you're not losing out. You're not getting hurt when you're doing that because your body's actually able to take it. Right. So that's where the balance of training, building your strength, building your power, your speed on top of the actual skills training itself come into play. Abdullah, does that make sense? Just checking to see if there's any questions anywhere else here. If not, I will stay focused. Yeah, man, absolutely. It's just finding the balance, right? People want to overdo the skills training because they think, the more I work my skills, the better. But if all you're doing is working your skills and you're not building your body up physically to be able to actually match the output that you're putting on it, now you're going to build up your skills, which is awesome, but your body's going to start breaking down. And that's why the athletes that see the best longevity, excuse me, the athletes that see the best longevity are the ones that are strong, are powerful, and have the skill set, right? Because you need the skill set to succeed. I'll never sit here and say that skills aren't important. But if your body's not actually able to withstand the demands of the career, no matter how good your skill set is, you're not going to go very far. Right? You got to have both. And anybody who's sitting here thinking that they don't, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Like you have to have both. If you don't have both, you're going to hit a ceiling, and that ceiling is going to be lower than if you're actually strength training too. That makes sense? Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions? Anybody with any other questions? Anything else that we can chat about? Yo, Mike, what's going on? We just wrapped up the podcast. Just taking questions now about, different training related things. Hey, dude, I appreciate you. You're a stud. Not seeing any other questions though. If anybody has any more, now is the time. Make sure to drop them. Mike the Stud signing on Instagram right as we're wrapping up. Appreciate you, man. Not seeing anything else. I'm going to give it about another 30 seconds. If I don't see any other question roll in, then we are going to wrap things up for today. But Abdullah, I want to say, I see you on here all the time, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact that you're coming on, you're learning, and you're asking questions too. That's really the mark of someone who's going to be successful. My first name is Kenny. And yes, absolutely. I'll see you next time for sure. But yeah, man, I see both of you actually on here a lot. Both of the guys who ask questions there. I see you guys on here a lot. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on here. It's, the athletes that are going to be successful are the ones who take advantage of resources they have around them. And you guys are showing that you're doing that. I absolutely love that. So good for you. I love it. And I'm happy to be here and helping you guys out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the next one as well. We're going to wrap it up. Unless there's any quick questions that come in before I get to ending all the streams.